Hello everybody, Bagels Gaming here. Welcome back to World of Tanks. And today I have a different video, not really, kind of different video for you guys. And it's basically going to be around the balance of the KV-3. Now, is the KV-3 a super OP broken tier 7 Soviet heavy tank? No, it's not. I think it's underpowered, actually. So, what what have I got to say about it? Well, first off, Wargaming mentioned that they want to have lines that make sense. Well, let's see. In the tech tree, does the KV line make sense with the KV-3 as it is right now? Okay, so let's see. KV-85, we got a 100mm and a 122mm cannon. It's got a big gun on it, pretty decent 100mm option. Usually people get the 100mm, some people get the 122. And so it's a big gun. It's definitely got more mobility than T-150. What does T-150 have? It has a little tiny derp gun that really nobody uses. And it's got a 107, so it's got a smaller gun than the big gun on the KV-85, and it's got a little bit worse pen, it's kind of balanced around here. Here, there's little no difference, just T-150's got more armor and is less mobile. Okay, now we go to the IS. What does the IS have? A 122mm cannon. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's got a lot of mobility. It's got pretty dang good armor. And let's see, IS-3, 122mm gun? Yeah. It's got pretty decent armor. It's slow. And it's got a big gun. Let's see, 257. It's got decent armor. It's slow. It's got a 122. Really big gun. Let's see, IS-7. Okay, it's got 130mm. It's even bigger. And it's got decent armor. It's pretty mobile. Okay, now let's look at the KV line again. KV-3. Okay, we got a 122mm gun. We got a 100mm gun. We still have the 107 over here. But all the accuracy on these are pretty mediocre. Actually, pretty bad, all of them. And armor is about the same as the IS. But, I mean, it's slower. It's slower than the IS. It's got the same maximum thickness of armor. Let's move on to the KV-4 at tier 8. Well, it's got a 122mm cannon, but its top gun's a 107. So it's a much smaller cannon. Okay, so it looks to me like the line's supposed to be smaller guns, but more armor and less mobility. But look at this gun. This gun's got pretty good penetration, mediocre alpha damage, but look at that. 0.38 accuracy and 3.1 aim time. That is really good base accuracy for a Russian heavy tank, or actually let alone a Russian tank. Let's look at the ST1. We get back up to 122mm. It's got 440 alpha. It's got high pen. That's pretty good, but it's really slow, and it's got really good armor. Okay, yeah, so it's about the same with the, my M4 Sherman came back. There, I apparently completed a mission. Anyways, so 122mm gun, yeah, okay. It's got the same gun as the others, but it's got more pen than the 257, and less mobility, more armor. IS-4, it's got a 122mm gun, the same one as the tier 9. So it's got a smaller gun, but thicker, more usable armor, I would say, supposedly, and less mobility. So where does the KV-3 stand? And I'll get to the IS-4 in a later video, but KV-3, it's got the same gun, it's got the same armor, it doesn't have better armor. In fact, I'd argue that it has worse armor than the IS, because the IS is more mobile with the same thickness of armor. Let's vehicle details. Vehicle details. Okay, so hull armor 120, 90, 60. Hull armor of the KV-3 120, 90, 90. Okay, your rear armor has 30 millimeters more. Does that really matter? Not really. I mean, you could drive backwards against a tier 5 angle. Does that really help you though? I mean, when I think of a tank being supposed to be having more armor, I don't think of more armor in the rear. That doesn't really help anybody out, let's be honest here. And it does have more durability. I forgot to mention that was another thing. Yeah, I mean, turret armor 100 millimeters, 90, 90. Turret armor 130, 130, 130. Okay, but 130 millimeters isn't that great of turret armor at tier 7. Let's be honest. Anybody can go through that. It's not very well sloped. There's always a flat angle. Mantlet is basically non-existent. Okay, so what do we have? Right now with my 107mm equipped, I have a better reload time. I have less damage per minute though, which kind of still sucks, and less accurate with my IS. So, what could Wargaming do to make this line more effective? I guess you could say more matching. I would make the 107mm the main gun for this tank. Now you don't need to buff the penetration, although that would be nice. You know, maybe buff the penetration to 180 on the standard rounds. Keep the premium at 219. That's perfectly fine. Buff the accuracy down to 0.4 base, then buff the aim time to 3.2. Maybe increase the rate of fire, but I don't really. If you do that, I don't really think it's necessary. And then you can move this tier 7 gun all the way up here, where this 122mm gun is, D25T, and you can just remove these two 122mm guns, leave the 100mm. So, how would the line look after that? It'd be KV-3, 85mm, 85mm turret, then 107 or 100mm. No 122mm cannons. Now I understand that would make this grind a lot harder, but I mean, it's a grind. Look at this. With the 122mm cannons, also with the pen, it wouldn't be so bad when you're stock anyways. If this was 180 pen, it's already more than these with standard and premium. So it'd give you an option. You have an option right now, and a decent option while you're grinding through these. And then you can get the turret, and you get the gun. Right now, what is this? This isn't even a grind. How can you call this a grind? It's not. It takes away from the input. Also, the KV-3 just absolutely sucks with this gun. I mean, it's not horrible, but it just sucks. I'm pretty sure if you buff the penetration to 180 from 167, just give it like some kind of different AP round or whatever, then buff the accuracy to 0.4 as a base with 100% crew. Keep in mind that I already have 100% crew with, so yeah, 0.45 is the base. Yeah, 0.45 is the base, and I got it down by, I got 0.02 less. So I could get I'd probably, if the base was 0.4, it'd probably be like 0.39, which is pretty respectable, but not that great, let's be honest. So I think that's what they should do first of all. Second of all, what Wargaming should do is buff the armor without nerfing the mobility. Mobility is okay. It's good enough for the type of tank the KV-3 is. However, the armor is worse than the IS. You can be like, oh, but 90 millimeters, but 30 millimeters, 40 millimeters. No, it's worse. It's way worse. So I'm facing straight on. 7 degrees of gun depression, like that. I'll bounce there, but I can pen here. I can pen here. I can pen here. I might bounce here, but I've been hit here and penned, and I can pen here. Like, let's say this is all covered up. Doesn't matter. They can pen like all across here. 130 millimeters. Not effective. At most, that's like 150. Unless I'm like, I don't know, super up like that, but isn't the KV-3 supposed to be the armored tank? Yeah. I just want to check something real fast. Okay, I thought I had less horsepower for a second. HP, perfectly fine. 1400, that is perfectly fine. The rest of mobility should stay the same. About 11 specific power, 10 something. Traverse speed is decent, meh, but like, let's be honest, it's supposed to be a super heavy. So they should buff the frontal plate. Not 120, 140. I'm pretty sure the only places that are 120 are this spot and this spot. Hold on. Let me just let's quickly look at tanks.gg just in case. Sorry, I'm pretty much winging this. I'm winging this part right now. So, tanks.gg. There we go. Interact. USSR. Oh boy. This isn't helping me. Sorry guys, I don't know how to work OBS with this whole thing. Okay, you know what? Never mind. This ain't gonna work. I'm just gonna look at it myself and see. I'll tell you guys about it though. Don't worry about that. I'm not gonna obscure the evidence. Oops, type that in. There we go. Yeah, a bit laggy. Please tell me it's still recording. Yep. Good. This is so weird. Okay, I'm gonna look at the KV-3's armor model here. Let's see. Yep, maximum is 130. Okay, so the manlet has 50 millimeters of spaced armor on, no. It only has spaced armor on the top and bottom of the mantlets, but to the left and right of the gun, it's just 130 millimeters. Easy pen. 180, 190 effective on the cheeks. Pretty easy to pen for tier 7s, let alone tier 8s. Here we go. So yeah, the upper bar and the actually no, the only part of the frontal hull that is 120 millimeters is the upper bar. Let me show you guys that in game. This is the only part of the frontal plate that is 120 millimeters. This part is 100 millimeters. This little part right here, this like extra thick armor it looks to be, is only 105 millimeters. Only 105 millimeters. Wargaming, are you serious? That mid plate area is 80 millimeters, and it's 160 effective. I mean, you angle at about a 45-degree angle. Lower plate's 120 millimeters, upper plate's 130. Mid plate is not bad at 180, but like really, 180? Tier 8s are gonna pen that. I mean, well, actually, yeah, tier 8s should be able to have a 50-50 chance of penning if you are lower tier heavy angle correctly. But tier 7s are going to pen that no problem. No problem at all. However, if they buff the 120 millimeter armor to 140, this would be this upper plate at 45-degree angle, angled at 45 degrees. The perfect angle you should have would be about, let's see, plus 20 millimeters, 165, okay, not that great. They buff the mid plate by 10 millimeters, it would be 190, so, yeah, not bad. 105 millimeter armor plate, if that was buffed by 20 millimeters as well, 125. It would be pretty much impenetrable on the upper side, which is angled at 60 degrees for tier 7s and 6s. Lower side, if it was buffed 20 millimeters, would be still penetrable by tier 8s, and lower plate, if that was 120 millimeters, that would be about 150 effective. If it was 140 millimeters, say it was buffed to 140, it would be 170 millimeters effective when angled at 45 degrees, and the side armor is just crazy on the KV-3 if you side screen. Nothing's going through that. So yeah, it's at this angle, if the armor was 90, 140, 140, at this angle right here, this would end up being 180 to 200 effective, 160 to 180 effective, and this would just be 180 to 200 effective, which is what it should be. Extremely hard when you're angled perfectly, extremely hard to pen if you hit this top part. Well, actually, this part should only be buffed to 120, so it's about 150 millimeters. That way, it's still a weak spot. Lower plate's still a weak spot. So this would be like 150 effective. This should be like, this whole upper part here, when angled like this, should reach at least 210 millimeters of effective. So then people have to aim here. And don't even get me started on the turret. The only place you're going to bounce here and down here. But you hit here and probably ricochet into the hull. Anyways, let's do a battle with the 107mm, since I believe the 107mm should be buffed. So after this, we'll recap on all the buffs that I believe the KV-3 should get. And I think, honestly, Wargaming could easily implement it, but I don't know how the development would be or whatever, balancing how hard that would be for them. But I think, considering that they're like adding a new tank in every month or two, this should not be that hard. Honestly, it really shouldn't be that hard. I mean, some of the things I'm mentioning could be pretty hard to get through with, like removing the 122mm guns from the KV-3, which honestly they're not that great. They're not that great. The 107 should end up being the top dog gun for the KV-3. That's what it should be. It would coincide more with this line if it was like that. Wow, my FPS is going crazy. Okay. My game might crash. Okay, sorry. M44, I was pushing you. I was fixing my graphic settings. Losing some FPS because I'm also recording. Got some CPU dedicated to OBS. And this is Ultra Graphics, which I'm not normally playing on. So as you can see, I got a 0.3 second reload right now. My DPM is about 2,100, which isn't that bad. It isn't that great though, considering my IS, which has a 122mm can, is only packing 2,300 DPM. So you can see how it could be pretty bad, considering the more alpha damage gun has on the IS has better DPM. But I mean, if this thing gets buffed to better pen and stuff, it should work. Of course, my armor does work pretty well against tier 5s, as it is. But really, is it? I mean, I'm supposed to be able to compete with equal tier tanks. Am I really competing with this Oni? Am I really? I mean, I'm probably better than him, so. This gorilla is keeping me stunned. Oh, that KV-3's got the 122. So let's just show him why this gun is just superior. Oh, my loader is dead. So this is how this gun should play. This is how the KV-3 should play. This is why the 107mm gun should be buffed to 180 pen. 180 pen and better dispersion. So then it could be a more reasonable gun, and then you could just remove the 122. You don't even really need to buff the DPM, let's be honest, but I wouldn't be against it, but you know, don't make it overpowered. But rebalance it for the line. Wargaming been talking about we want the lines to be more make more sense, but then we have KV-3, and don't even get me started on the IS-4. Especially the main thing that Wargaming is missing, which is why when I took a survey earlier, I mentioned the game balance. How I feel about the tanks and the game balance is horrible. It's because the old tanks they're not with the meta. They're not even reasonably balanced compared to the new tanks. Like, when was the last time anyone's seen an IS-4 in battle? Like, it's such a rare tank to see because it's just horrible. Why play an IS-4 when you can play an IS-7? Which does the IS-4's job better because it's faster. It's got a bigger gun. So, yeah, it's like, why? Why is this a thing? The IS-4 needs to be buffed. KV-3 needs to be buffed. I'm not sure about the KV-4. I haven't played the KV-4 in a while, but I'm sure the KV-4 might need something. Point is, Wargaming, you gotta understand, there's like 500 tanks. There is not 500 tier 7 tanks. There is not 500 tier 7 tanks. There is not 500 tier 10 tanks. There is a reason why, if you look, that nobody is playing the IS-4 compared to a Super Conqueror. Nobody is playing a T110E5 compared to the Super Conqueror. What's the new flavor of the month? Tier 10 heavy tank. IS-7 Super Conqueror. The Panzer 7's a relatively new tank, but nobody's really playing that. Come on, where's a flavor of the month tank? People don't really play the AMX M4. It's not as good as the Super Conqueror. Type 5 Heavy, nobody really plays it. WZ-111 and 5A. Nobody plays the 113. 113 suffers from almost the same reasons as the IS-4. Rarely do people play the KV-3 aside from like newer players who are just looking at it, or people like me who believe that it can be a good tank. And it's a decent tank when I'm playing it. But is it a decent tank when other people are playing it? Like, look at this guy. I took off, let's see, he had 1400 HP. I took off about 900. That's about 2/3, 3/3. Did he have a great time? Did this KV-3 have a great time? He got 2 shots. He got 2 shots. Come on. Now, is this guy a good player? I'm not sure. He's new. He's a new player, and he could get 2 shots. Do you think he had fun? Did he have fun with his KV-3 at all? This supposedly armored, slow, heavy tank that's supposed to tank and damage and then dish it out. I don't think so. I don't think he had fun. He blocked 480 damage. That was probably via whatever tank was behind me that was not tier 7. I mean, yeah, it does good against non-tier 7 tanks. They're probably new players. Anyways, I mean, I got a first class here. Obviously, I didn't do that. 900 XP, high caliber, 2,400 damage. I basically walked right through their team. That's just because I'm a above average player. But like I said, newer player. Wargaming needs to understand that you can't have power creep. You can't have tanks that are just left behind in the meta. Last time the KV-3 was buffed was in patch 7.5. Patch 7.5. That's the same patch when tier 10 tank destroyers were introduced into the game. That's ridiculous. This tank, how many times has the meta changed since this tank has received the buff? Mind you, that buff was plus 100 HP, which it definitely needed it, but like, is that enough? Is 1400 HP a mediocre gun that works better on the other tier 7 tank? Mediocre armor that works better on the other tier 7 tank? Non-existent mobility compared to the other tier 7 tank, which has basically the same characteristics if you load the top gun and you use the armor. View range, what is the base view range of this? It's got 10 meters less view range than the other tier 7 tank that goes faster. Obviously, it's got less concealment. Just check. Yeah, less concealment. I mean, I do have camouflage. Okay, let's throw some camouflage on this. There we go. Camouflage. Still less. Is it fair? Is it really fair that the IS is just so much better? Like, the IS hasn't been buffed. Why is that? Because it's a great tank. KV-3 is not a great tank. It doesn't match the meta anymore. In fact, the KV-3's never matched the meta. I've never seen such an influx of KV-3s. I know I'm kind of ranting here, but yeah, the KV-3 needs help. Wargaming, please. Instead of trying to add new nations that aren't really complete tech trees. Oh, one tier, one line. Well, this line's been in forever, but like 2 lines, 1 line, 2 lines. Like, why? Why must it be like 1 line? Instead of adding newer tanks that change, to be honest, they changed the meta. They changed the meta. Before you change the meta, check and make sure that every tank, at least tier 6 plus, because those are, tier 5 is when you really start to choose tanks that you like. You develop your gameplay style. Tier 6, you enhance your gameplay style. And then, once you hit tier 5 plus, you keep one tank at least from each tier. From tier 5, you keep one tank. From tier 6, you keep at least one tank. From tier 7, you keep at least one tank. From tier 8, you keep at least 2 or 3 tanks, you know? Tier 9 is is probably the best tier in the game for people because it's easier to get to than tier 10. And you basically have a slightly watered down tier 10. It's a great experience at tier 9. And then tier 10, your top tier tank. You know what you want. But like, come on, Wargaming. Some of these tanks, they haven't been looked at. Are they great? No. Could they be improved without making them broken? Yes. Yes, they can. My main advice would be for Wargaming, if you could just go in and look at your stats, because I know you have stats. Which tanks, like, average it out, or whatever, and see which tanks, compared to other tanks, have a near non-existent player base playing it, I guess. I don't know what you would call that. You know what I mean. Like, which tanks are not being played. Then look at them. Their stats compared to the tanks that are being played. Why aren't they being played? Are these newer tanks doing things better than the tanks that are in? Are they doing it better than what that tank's main aspect is? Just ask these questions about these tanks that just aren't being shown love. Some tanks are perfectly balanced. They're perfectly fine. They have a decent player base. I see them all the time. But they're not, I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, this Carnarvon is so broken, I can't kill him. Or, well, I'm dead, he's here, so I guess I'm dead. I have to respect him that he could kill me. The Carnarvon player could kill me if he outplays me, but I could kill him if I outplay him. It just needs, these tanks need to be looked at. The tanks that you already have in the game should be your main priority. Because that's how you have 500 tanks almost, I think. I'm pretty sure it's close to 500. It's definitely more than 300. 300 tanks. I'm on the North American server, and there's 11,000 players on it. So, and there's, at the most, there's like 200 people in the matchmaker. There's more tanks in the tech tree than there are people who play in the World North American server matchmaker. Now I know that's a different thing for Europe and for Russia, but you don't really see 1,000 people. I've seen streamers when they hit the battle button. There's not 1,000 people in the random queue on their server. There's usually 200 to maybe 500 if it's a crazy day or something. But that's like enough tanks. There's enough tanks in all the tech trees for each one of them to play a completely different tank, basically. And so I wouldn't focus on adding new tanks. Right now the diversity is enough. It's just you need to go back and make sure that the diversity is worth having. Like KV-3 is so would make the gameplay so much diverse. Tiger 2, IS-4, instead of just Super Conqueror, Super Conqueror, Super Conqueror, IS-7, 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 140, 140, 140, 2684, 2684, 2684. What else? Jagdpanzer U100, Jagdpanzer U100, Grill 15, Grill 15, Grill 15. Mouse, mouse, mouse. You know? Change it up. Change it up. By change it up, I don't mean buff something ridiculously, you know. Make everything able to do what its characteristics imply that it should do at an equal level compared to everything else. Once again,